What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Anything happening this week? Has it been pretty quiet? Anything going on? No? Alright, well, I guess we could just skip the news stuff. In all seriousness, we're here for the Sunday Weekly Update. I hope everyone has had a nice and wonderful week. I must admit, I am probably 98% back to normal post-national. This thing really kicked my ass this time, whatever it was that I had. It really took me a while to shake this, just from like a cough perspective and all that. I don't want to get into the nasty details, but finally feeling almost back to normal. Just a little bit left to go. So let's not waste any time. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. First up, all the baseball card exchange nonsense. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this. I've talked this to death already across 2 different videos. As I said in yesterday's video, we have the evidence laid out in front of us from what went down. We have BBCE's response. It's now up to us as a community to figure out for an individual person what side of the fence we come down on this. Frankly, I don't believe them, obviously. And I think that's where probably 98% of people come down on that side, and then the 2% that have a bunch of BBCE sealed wax, wrapped wax, are probably going to come down on the other side, if we're being honest. Quite frankly, I think the only possible way they can get back their reputation would be to instantly guarantee everything that's BBCE wrapped. I don't know how else you do it beyond that. I really don't. And the fact that they haven't done that from the beginning kind of tells you that should be an immediate red flag when an authentication company, whether it's grading or otherwise, is not willing to stand behind their encapsulation, wrap, process, whatever you want to call it. That should be an immediate red flag, in my opinion. That something is not going right here. Like I said, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. We've kind of talked this to death already. Sports Card Radio has done like 17 videos on this, and I expect more. The only really thing kind of left hanging out there that a lot of people are wondering on, myself included, is kind of like who knew what when, who sold it to who knew what when they sold it, who knew what when they bought it, like that kind of stuff. Were people aware behind the scenes while this was going on that something weird was happening? It's a weird case because it wasn't a break people paid for to get in. It was a charity break or a giveaway break, whatever you want to call it. So other than those sorts of details and just the general questioning now around BBCE wrapped boxes, I don't know what else there is left to discuss with this. So that's that. If something new pops up in regards to this, I'll do another video talking about it. If there's something, drastic or worth discussing, but we'll see where it goes from there. Quick word. We do have a sponsor for today's video, and that is the Shipshawana B Sports show coming up on Labor Day. That's right. Anyone that's followed the channel for a while knows I've attended this show on multiple occasions. It is a fantastic show. Great show. Trade night the night before on Sunday, with the show taking place on Labor Day from 8:30 to 3 p.m. I am, as of right now, planning on attending this show. I missed the last Memorial Day show. I was at the 2 shows previous to this. Really cool venue. Really great mix of cards from low end to high end. And I believe I am going to try to line up an interview with Brad, the guy that runs this show, to have him come on and just kind of chat about not life as a show promoter, but the inner workings of show promotion for what I would consider a regional show. So if you are in the Northern Indiana area, and like I said, I drive 4 hours from Ohio to attend this show. So if you're in the Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, maybe even Kentucky and further region, highly encourage you to check out this show. It is fantastic. I always have a great time at this show, have a great time at the trade night the night before. If you're not familiar where Shipshewana, Indiana is, and if you're not, I don't blame you. It is slightly due east of Notre Dame, essentially, to put a pin on a map for you to get an idea of where this is. But I look forward to an interview with Brad at some point in time. Not sure when we're going to record that. We're working on scheduling that. But if you were in the neck of the woods, highly encourage you to go check out the Shipshewana show coming up on September 5th. A couple other news bits that I just want to touch on, really just one. This just kind of got washed under the rug, and there really wasn't a good spot to talk about this. CSG has come out and announced new turnaround times, and they're basically all slightly faster than what they used to be. The big one is that bulk is down to 30 days, economy's at 20 days, and standards at 10 days. So $15 bulk for CSG with a 30-day turnaround time is not too shabby. Now, I know. CSG does not carry quite the secondary resale value that we would like to see compared to some of the other ones, but I really like them for PC stuff. I mentioned when I got the Griffey Auto back, they may be my go-to going forward for something that I just want slabbed from a PC perspective. And they are really, when we look at gem rate data next month, they're probably going to be pretty high up there. They are getting a lot of cards. Now, they're getting a lot of lower end cards, I believe, just based off of, what I'm seeing on the sales side of things. But more and more people are giving them a shake. And I think it's going to be very interesting. PSA is miles away in front of everybody else. And, whether or not someone runs them down, I don't know. To me, the interesting battle is for second place. Beckett has the name value. SGC has the customer service / experience, I guess I'll call it, with Peter. And CSG probably has the best slab and the best pricing. So second place to me in the grading wars is extremely interesting on how this is going to shake out. And I think that's where the real fight is between those three companies to see if someone can establish themselves as a clear number two. So we'll see what happens, but CSG did announce new turnaround times. I thought it was at least worth mentioning. One last quick thing, and then we'll kind of dive into market movers and some charts and graphs. I'm sorry, two quick things. One, shout out to my boy, Sports Cards Anonymous. He retired from YouTube this week. We'll see if it lasts. I'm skeptical, but friend of the channel, Dakota, decided to hang up or unplug the microphone, I guess, if you will, for the time being. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to him. Fun channel. We obviously disagreed a lot, but I will miss arguing with him on random live streams, normally about his terrible NBA takes. But, what are you going to do? Life comes at you fast. He went and had a kid, and then that's it. No time for the YouTube game anymore. So I will miss you, Dakota. But I have a feeling this is not the last that we will see you. It might be a while, but I don't think this is the last that we will see of Sports Cards Anonymous. One last quick thing, and then we'll dive into market movers. Fantasy leagues. 2 football leagues have filled. I probably won't run another one unless a bunch of people comment on this video and say, oh, no, I wanted to join into a fantasy football league. Those are being run on Underdog. Basketball, there are 5 slots left in the first basketball league. So if you're interested in fantasy basketball, click the link. I'll put it in the description of this video. So $10 Underdog. All the information will be there. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive into market movers. Link in the description down below as well for $1 for the first month. We are going to kick things off with Market Pulse, and we are going to start with baseball. The other big news items of the week that have happened outside of card industry stuff: Fernando Tatis, PED suspension. We're going to look at some of his specific cards in a second. But on the baseball side of things, that was probably the biggest story overshadowing everything. And I'm recording this a little bit earlier than normal on Saturday afternoon. We don't really have a good feel for pricing yet on some of this stuff. It looks like, and I'm speaking very generally here, because things have yet to shake out. It'll take a couple days till we kind of see the full effect of this. It looks like around a 50% hit on Tatis stuff pretty much across the board. We'll see where all the numbers settle out. but that seems to be where a lot of people's guesses are, is about a 50% hit on everything. I've already seen that on a couple like Bowman Chrome sales and even on some refractors, but it's still kind of bouncing around a little bit right now. People are still trying to figure out where this is all going to go. So probably next week's video, we'll have a much better idea where his pricing's at. And I think tomorrow, I think this is a good opportunity to circle around and talk about selling at a loss. And are you better off to kind of ride the waves and wait this out, or just sell it and move on and get into the next thing? So that's probably going to be a topic for tomorrow's video, because I want to spend a little bit more time on that versus trying to squeeze it into this right here. But the Tatis news was the other major thing that happened this week. The other thing that happened was the Zach Wilson injury. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but the Tatis thing was an absolute bombshell. His cards were very expensive. A lot of people had money tied up into them. And this really sucks, quite frankly. You know, he was a fun, awesome player to watch. And then this kind of come and hit. And I don't know, curious, do you guys and girls think he's toast? Like, does he have zero chance at making the Hall of Fame now? My lean is yes, but my personal lean, I'm curious for your thoughts. But I'm wondering, he's only 23. There's a long way to go before he gets there, assuming he has that sort of career. Does the stance on PEDs change between now and when that conversation would really take place? Does something happen between now and then where they're legitimized, or the other guys get in, the McGuires, the Bonses, the Clemens, so on and so forth, that open the floodgates for guys like him? I don't know. Nobody does. But I mean, the general rhetoric going around is that he is now tainted forever. You know, that could be the case. If he comes back next year early in the season and is just jacking home runs left and right and is on a 60 home run pace, who knows what the market's going to do. But for right now, his stuff's getting hammered. Once again, we'll talk about that more in a second. We haven't looked at market pulse in a couple weeks. Let's go ahead and take a quick whip into each sport as we kind of move through this. Once again, market pulse is kind of a portfolio approach to the individual card markets that market movers put together. We are looking at baseball the last 30 days. The blue line is Ultra Modern Baseball 2018 to 2020. The pink line is what I consider Modern Baseball 2010 to 2017. As you can see, over the last 30, Ultra Modern has basically stayed flat, 0.5%. And this is as the market as a whole. Modern Baseball has dropped 7.2%. Now, there's an anchor in that Modern Baseball, and that guy's name is Mike Trout. You can see right at the top of this list, a couple Mike Trout cards have taken a pretty big whack because of this back injury stuff that's going around with him. So that's kind of put a drag on that whole Modern tier of 2010 to 2017. Because his cards sell for such a large sum of money that when one player like that tanks in an index, it can bring the whole index down. So it's important to keep that in mind when you're looking at stuff like this, that one player can swing a whole index when their prices are super inflated. We'll probably see this again later with football with Patrick Mahomes. He's another one that could swing that whole modern market on a market index. So generally speaking, if you take Trout out of it, baseball, active player baseball is pretty flat, really. Now, Ultra Modern is probably going to take a hit with the Tatis news. So when we look at this again in a week or two, the Tatis market is probably going to go down. The Ultra Modern market got a bump from Soto getting traded. All his stuff went way up. But now Tatis is probably going to counterbalance that, which is kind of funny because they're on the same team. Looking at some individual Tatis stuff, the one that interests me the most, and let me just refresh this to see if anything new got posted, is the 2016 Tatis Bowman Auto. As of right now, there are some auctions that have popped up that are going to be ending pretty soon. I'll be curious to see where those end up popping out at. On this side of things, I was curious to see if anyone took anything really low. The most interesting one, actually there's two, was this BGS 9.5. This is a true gem. Went for $850. These regularly sold for $2K like yesterday. I at $850, I'm not gonna lie, if I would have saw that, and I don't think this was up for very long, I probably would have smacked the bin on that. I think this got posted at 10:30 p.m. last night and it sold before midnight. I don't believe this one was up for very long. Above that, the other interesting one there was the refractor. Once again, a True Gem refractor out of 199, sold for 2K even. Someone smacked the bin on that one. That seems pretty cheap for that card as well. I don't know that I want to put 2K into one of his cards, but a 2016 first Bowman for sub 1,000, I would at least be intrigued depending on the grade, the subgrades, the whole 9 yards. That interests me a little bit. Even in a PSA 9, you got a PSA 9 down to like $500 or $600. I'd be intrigued, honestly. And we'll talk, once again, we'll kind of get into a little bit of a deeper discussion with his stuff in regards to buy, sell, hold, how to kind of approach this stuff from a macro level on these things. Here's his Topps Chrome refractors from 2019 rather, including his auto, his base auto. I kind of just wanted to look at these as kind of like a, where do we sit? None of these have sold since the news broke. So we're seeing his base refractor 250, X-fractors at 600, Prism refractors at 440, and the auto at 1400. And this had actually just recently spiked up. This had gotten down to about $775, and then spiked up with the Soto news. So I'm going to guess, once again, I think most of this stuff probably drops by about 50%. I think I already saw some Prism refractors going for about 200 to 250. I don't think I've seen any X-fractors or regular refractors sell yet, but I haven't looked for regular refractors. Once again, I'm expecting at least probably a 30 to 50% hit, depending on the individual card. The autos seem to be taking the biggest hit on this, but they're the most expensive. So once again, we'll kind of talk about selling at a loss. Are you better off to sell at the loss or ride it out in tomorrow's video? Next up, the guy that everyone really should be talking about, but because Tatis is a dum-dum, went ahead and got busted for PEDs. Just, people are talking about Aaron Judge. It's not like they're not, but I just feel like he's not getting as much hype as he should, given the numbers that he's putting up. And maybe that's just me living in a Northeast Ohio bubble. But just New York Yankee, absolutely crushing a ball. I feel like his card prices don't reflect that. This is his 2017 Topps Chrome. His base refractor is going for 371, X-fractor for 600, the pink refractor for 400, basically 400, and the prism refractor for 400. If we flip back and look at Tatis's X-fractor is selling for 610. Tatis hasn't played all year. Yeah, he has Soto on his team, but he hasn't played all year with a broken wrist. Aaron Judge is having an insane season, and his X-fractor is selling for $600. So just kind of interesting there to look at that. Also, Pop 67 on his X-fractor. Tatis is his Pop 437. So much, much more rare. So I just found this really interesting that Judge's prices actually seem kind of reasonable. Now, you see huge green here, up 90%, 60%, 120, 107%. I ran this back all the way to February. I went back a full 180 days on this. You could have gotten a Judge dirt cheap back in the spring and late winter. And his stuff has gone up really nice. I'm just surprised it hasn't gone up more. Could you imagine what these prices would be if this was the summer of 2020 when everything was going wonky? Imagine what Judge prices would look like if we were in 2020. Also keep in mind how monstrous of a year he is having and where his card prices are at. And then look at some of the other guys that you're spending money on. Just kind of keep that in mind. He's having an insane season, and his Pop 67 X-fractor is only selling for $600. I just find that interesting. Let's look at his autos. This is his Topps Chrome auto, PSA 10 and a BGS 9.5. I looked at both because back in 2017, a lot of these would have went to BGS. Now, there are not recent sales on these. You have to go back to early July to mid to late July when the last two of these sold. $1,100 for a PSA 10, $575 for a BGS 9.5. I can tell you right now, there's one running at auction with one of the worst photos I've ever seen. I don't know what they did to this thing. It looks like someone chewed on it. Obviously, the card doesn't look like that. I think it's something when you upload with eBay. This has 4 days left on it at $636 with 33 bids and a bunch of time to go. I have a feeling this card's going to shoot way up based off of the last time these have sold. But that seems very reasonable. I don't know the BGS pop. PSA 10 pop is only 41 on this card. But once again, one has not sold for a while. I looked at active listings of this. I think the cheapest one available was like $2,500. So it's clearly not worth that because no one's been buying it at that price. But it's definitely, you're not going to find one for $1,100, or if you do, jump on it right away. One last guy I wanted to talk about, another player having an absolutely insane season. That is Michael Harris. This is his 2020 first Bowman Chrome PSA 10 auto. He's having just an absolutely fantastic season as well. This is also going back 180 days just to kind of show the steady climb on this. The interesting thing here is this is a guy that did not have a lot of hype coming into the season. Not like Bobby Witt and Wander Franco, where there was a ton of stuff baked in already. He did not have a lot of expectations baked into him, but he has performed extremely well. And we can see his prices have basically doubled. His first Bowman auto is now up to $600, up 95%. I've talked about this a ton before about I'm not a big fan of holding players in the season because usually bad things happen. There's a specific caveat with that I should mention, and it's guys specifically that have a lot of expectations built into the value already. Those are the players that you don't want to hold in the season, in my opinion. They get the off-season pump, and it's hard for them to meet the lofty expectations that the market puts on top of them. Guys that are undervalued or don't have a lot of stuff thrown on top of them, those are the ones that you want to buy and take a risk holding in the season. Because for them to go way up takes less work. Less things have to go their way because they don't have high expectations placed on them. I think this really holds true in the football market most of all. And that's something that we'll probably talk about either this week or next. I kind of want to do like a end of the offseason, beginning of the season football video at some point in time. So just an interesting chart there when you compare his to some of the other big prospects that have played this year and not lived up to the expectations that were put on them. Football. Ultra Modern Index up almost 6%. Modern Index down 12%. Ultra Modern being up slightly, not that surprising. Tua, Hurts are driving a lot of that. A lot of that. At time of recording, I should mention, Zach Wilson had the knee injury on Friday night. I believe from what I saw, and do not hold me to this, is that it seems like he dodged a bullet, maybe only out 2 to 4 weeks, and maybe a minor procedure to get things straightened up. But overall, seemed to dodge a bullet there. That would have really sucked if he was lost for the season as well. But ultra-modern football is really driving things right now. Hurts, Allen, Tua, those guys. Herbert and Burrow, actually not so much. And then on the ultra-moderns, or on the modern side, Mahomes continues to dive a little bit, and we'll take a look at his stuff specifically here. This is his PSA 10 Prism. I talked about this post-national. He was one of the guys, and I talked to a couple different dealers that had a lot of really nice Mahomes stuff. Autos, Prism Silvers, Prism Color, Optic Hollows, the whole 9 yards. And they said no one asked about him all week. And it is, once again, showing in his prices. This is his PSA 10 Silver. This is over the last 30 days. It's down 20%. Down to 3.6K now from 4.6K. Pretty big hit on this card. And he has no buzz. Absolutely no buzz behind him at all. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens to his prices once the season starts. Because they can win, but I don't know that he's going to put up monstrous numbers like he did in the past. We'll see. I am not bullish on him at all. I still personally think 3,600 is overpriced for him just because of how loaded the AFC is. Them making a Super Bowl this year, let alone an AFC championship game, I think is going to be a tall order. We'll see how things shake out. Like I said, maybe we'll deep dive into this a little bit more in a football specific video coming up here. Maybe the end of this week, we'll dive into that since preseason's in full swing now. Let's swing over and wrap up on basketball. We're going a little long here. Just very quickly, we'll just cover the indexes. Modern basketball down 1.3% as an index. Ultra modern down 1.7%. Essentially holding flat. A 1% swing here and there is not really going to shift anything too much. I always feel like this is the good time of year to be buying basketball. I love, and judging by my pickup videos, as you noticed, I really like going for basketball hard at the National. I think there's the best deals to be had at basketball at that time, as most people are looking at football. You can kind of slide under the radar and look at basketball. And you're starting to see now people kind of shift their gears over towards the NBA a little bit. The people that transacted a lot of higher end cards, you know, like if you follow Kenny Fornos or Roth and like that crew, a lot of the big flippers, I guess, to use an appropriate term, you saw immediately after the National, it went from buying Tua, Hurts, Herbert, Burrow to buying a little bit of football, but now you're seeing Zion, Ja, Cole Anthony, this, that, the other thing of NBA players. So as soon as the National ended, you see a lot of those guys that buy and sell heavy. All of a sudden, their buy list, a bunch of football fell off of it, and a bunch of NBA went on it. So that's why I always like to go into the National looking for basketball, looking to move out of football and into basketball. I just always think that's a pretty safe play in regards to that. But we'll see if the basketball market starts to pick up a little bit. I think I heard today they break training camp in like 6 weeks, mid-September. I think mid to late September is when training camps open up. We should be getting an NBA schedule soon. I'm excited. I'm very excited for this upcoming NBA season. And we still don't have KD news. There was, so the nonsense that came out with him wanting the coach and the GM fired, that clearly didn't go anywhere yet anyway, but we'll see if anything shakes loose out of that. I see the Celtics are the betting odds to get him. If the Celtics get him, what does that do to Jason Tatum's values? Do they get a big bump just based off the hype meter alone? And then you'd have Jaylen Brown most likely going back to the Nets. So that's all I have for you guys and girls today. Once again, speaking of basketball, 5 slots left in the fantasy league. Go ahead and check out the link in the description down below on that. Football is full, but I can run another one if there are 9 people interested in getting in. I have no problem spinning another one up, but I don't want to spin it up if it's not going to fill. The first draft is actually already complete. The second draft is just got started yesterday. And like I said, I could do a third if the interest is there. But if not, that's fine. We'll transition over to basketball. Maybe we can get a couple different basketball drafts in, but 5 spots left in that. Check out the information in the description to this video. That is all I have for you guys and girls today. I am actually off to Lake Ontario for a fishing charter. Gonna go chase some king salmon, see how that works out. Tomorrow's video will probably be something around taking losses and kind of how to handle these situations when a player that you have a lot of money in, their value suddenly drops 50% overnight. What's the best way to approach that, in my opinion? Catch you guys and girls later. Peace.